Hello, hello.
Hello, Eli. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for the invitation.
Oh, thank you very, very much. So, first of all, I just want to say to not only to you, but to our, viewers, welcome to Brazil in Focus South Africa. This is a live program presented by Instituto Guimarães Rosa in Pretoria. And my name is Daniela Mendonça, and I will be your host today. Good morning to those who are watching us from the US and from Brazil. And good afternoon to those who are watching us from South Africa. Today we are going to talk about environmental education in Brazil. And as you have seen, this beautiful and intelligent lady, this is Dr. Eli Boda, who is a Brazilian who lives in the US now. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about who she is. So Eli Boda is a Brazilian biologist. She's a teacher and an author. She has a PhD from the Washington State University and a postdoc degree in biostatistics from the University of Washington. Currently, she is the research director of Pure Line Seeds Incorporation in the US, and her interests are environmental education, sustainability, plant sciences, and EFL and ESL. So good morning, Eli. Very welcome to our program. This is something, it's such a great honor to have you in this program. And personally, we have two main reasons to celebrate it. In the previous years, we were the Brazil-South Africa Cultural Center. Now we are IGR, Instituto Guimarães Rosa. It is part of the Brazilian government as well. We are the same institution pretty much, but with new ideas, new targets, working more together as an institution. So it is a great, great pleasure to have you here, because before, so we were Brazil-South Africa Cultural Center, now we are IGR. And it's another thing, it's a great pleasure to have you in the program, because I have met you for so many years. I have, known you for so many years, and to see you where you are, the person you are, it's such a great honor and pleasure.
Oh, thank you.
So I've got a lot of questions to you. I've got really a lot of questions to you, and I'm sure that people who are watching us have many questions as well. So we're talking about environmental education, right? But what is really environmental education? Because it's such a nice term, beautiful. But can you tell us? Can you tell us what it is about?
Yes. First of all, thank you so much, Dani. You're the one responsible for my journey abroad to learn a new language, to explore. I'm very happy to be here representing Brazil, but also broadcasting from the United States. So thank you very much. Please type your questions, reach out to Dani or to me if you have any questions on specific topics, if you want to learn more. It's a pleasure. I'm here in the middle of the night. Now is 3:30 a.m. in the United States of Washington. But I know people in Brazil are in the morning there, waking up. In South Africa is afternoon. So people from all over, thank you very much for watching this live. Yes, let's start with environmental education. What is environmental education? Why is this topic important? People never needed this topic because in the past we were all a big part of the environment. As soon as we learn how to walk and talk and experience, nature was there for us. But in the mid 70s, 80s, a lot of things happen when industries and factories took place in nature and start developing, and we had a lot of air pollution and those trees start disappearing, and our exposure to nature, our relationship that was from the beginning of times all together growing in nature start to fade. Kids start to be in apartment complexes and they start to see less and less of trees, mountains, rivers, and that raised a concern. So the environment was always there and it started to fade out, and our relationship to learn and grow with the environment was also fading out. So there was a push to institute environmental education in schools or as in projects or to the public, formally in schools and informally, like through the media, internet now, or newspapers, how to increase awareness that we do need this dependence with the environment. What can we do to, one, learn and grow with trees and nature, but also what can we do to protect it, to keep more trees around? And so this push, the very first book that pushed the awareness for environmental education for silence was Silent Spring of Rachel Carlson in the United States. And from then on, everybody started reading and thinking, oh yes, we do need to do something about it. So environmental education is part of our life, but it's more institutionalized now because we start seeing nature getting far away and few between humans and the animals as well, the wild animals.
And tell me something, how is Brazil in this scenario? So how do people interact with nature in Brazil that can be different from other countries?
Oh, great question, Nani. As I grew up in Brazil and this movement was starting to be pushed, I don't want to tell my age, but we started learning, environment is important. Let's protect the trees. Let's separate our garbage. So we started learning that when I was a teenager. There was a conference in Rio de Janeiro, worldwide. People got together. Let's put limits. So this movement that started in the United States, this increase of awareness was pushed to Rio de Janeiro as one of the areas of. I never been there to the conference. At that time I was too young. But people start talking, how can we protect the environment? And a lot of Brazilians were involved, and they pushed for the constitution. Even then, our constitution in Brazil is so beautiful. Let's amend that. Let's write articles to protect the environment. We're gonna talk later about the laws, but it's the big push started from increasing awareness to changing the constitution, to go knock on door to door, and to outline. It's a beautiful legislation. So we outline procedures, guidelines, we invest money and time and passion. So Brazil is one of the best written laws, environmental education, or environment in general. There's every school that I've been, people are really concerned to teach the little kids all the way to high school, like to do recycling, to plant trees, about nature. It's not only in science, all subjects. So I would say Brazil is one of a great model.
Well,
Yes.
uh-huh.
If you wanted to visit Brazil, if you're listening now, please do, because yes, there's a lot of things that we can change, but we can always improve, right? There's things that happen, and I think Brazil is a good place to be in
Once
a
in
lot
one
of.
of my conversations with you, you said, "Oh, Brazilians interact with nature a little bit different from the Americans because you've been living in America now." And you said, okay, Americans go to nature and Brazilians don't go much to nature because they want to protect nature. How is it?
Oh, good question. So yeah, Danny is responsible for me experiencing United States culture. I used to teach science in Brazil, and in Brazil, we day to day we would go for a walk, down the street to a river to a forest, plant trees behind the school. So in a way of informally disorganized, but moving towards that close effectiveness relationship. In the US, I think US developed first before Brazil. And in that development process, a lot of trees were cut down for farming, like in Brazil. And then the consciousness starts to kick in the US, and we have national parks. So we have parks, we have areas that we work on in the Audubon Center, Danny and I, and they protect, and the kids want to learn from the forest at the forest. So they take a school bus, leave the school, leave the book, and go there and experience. That's awesome. That's outdoor education. We do not have that in Brazil. We try to do that a little bit at a time, and like bring students here and there, but not formally, not relocating, the whole classroom to learn about nature. So that's beautiful here. That's a way to increase or to develop that sense of relationship and love for nature.
So there are many aspects in relation to environmental education. Can be in terms of air pollution, can be water, can be different areas that we can kind of dig into, right? Step into. How about the recycling? How is it in Brazil in general, and where you come from or we come from, right? So can you tell us a little bit about recycling in Brazil and a term that we were discussing the other day about this coleta seletiva, né? Selective garbage collection, whatever, né?
Yes,
Can you
yes,
tell us a
definitely.
little bit?
Yeah, so a while ago when I was a teacher in Brazil, we had a lot of open landfills, and we're trying to move away from that. There's many implications. I think Danny will ask me later on. But one of the things to avoid or to decrease the volume of solid things going to the landfill, we want to recycle right there, right at home. And it was very challenging because the culture wasn't that way, and certain cultures are not. In the US, people go in the weekend, they already separate at home. They bring to the recycling center, separate it, and then drop it there. There is not pickup. But in Brazil, there's selective garbage removal. It's a schedule in the place that I used to live in Passo Fundo. I still go every year. Every year we go to Brazil, bring my family, everybody. I still do projects there. And they come like twice a week, let's say Wednesday and Friday, and the garbage truck will only pick up cardboard and bottles and things that can be recycled in those days. And the other days, it will be collecting normal garbage to be disposed, not in an open landfill anymore. So that's that's an improvement, but there was also a process. But people are very important in this process, because until we learn the system, we learn to separate, it's easy, right? To just toss everything out together. But that's the process of learning. That's why education comes in, continuous process. People walk by, and I have to praise them a lot and thank you. And I know in South Africa there are some people that do that, and thank you so much for that. They go and collect. They walk with their little carts. Those are called catadores de papel, né? Paper collectors. They push their carts. They go from house to house, removing from the garbage and putting in that, and they sell for pennies, but some make a living of it. There's associations in Brazil that protect them, and I'm very, very happy for that service. But even before the house, some people in big areas in Brazil, it happened in this process, and it happened I don't know if it happened in the United States, but it happens around the world. When you have this garbage all mixed up, disposed in a landfill, open landfill, people go there and they collect the recycle, they collect the cans, and that's a very important service, and sometimes we don't pay attention to those people.
But do you think, because we're talking about recycling, so the law, plays its role. Can you say that? Because there was a law, that there was a need for implementation, and then people were made aware, and there was a law, and then it seems that the population got more mature about it.
Yes. So like the open landfills, for example, the government extend a period of time to end that. So the city is responsible. The legislation is like the main government in Brazil, right? The federal, and then you have the states, and then you have the municipal, the cities. And so the government, the constitution is a federal level, and then it pushes down to the states to do certain things, but to the specific garbage collection and disposal is at the city level. And it was like, okay, cities, now you got to terminate this open landfill. So they had to start to get to that process. So it touches your wallet, they say here, it touches your consciousness, but in Brazil, né, se dói no bolso, dói na cabeça, então that's very important. So not that we won't collect money, but legislation and laws and fines, if you don't follow that, that's a way of doing things, promoting change.
So people can be fined because they don't follow the law in Brazil.
Yes.
Is it correct?
That's correct. Not per se on the garbage removal or the separation of garbage, but for example, if I have a native tree, this is Passo Fundo where we grow, and there was a long time ago. If you have native trees growing in the city in your property, and you went there and cut that tree silently, and somebody called the responsible people for law enforcement, like IBAMA or Patrulha Ambiental, they would come and give you a fine. So you couldn't even cut your trees. People got very angry. They said, this is my property. These are my trees. I want to cut them down. But if, there's some trees that are in danger, like Araucaria, that's a specific pine tree in Brazil that we love it so much. There are certain concerns. I understand that some people not liking at the beginning, but made life much easier in certain aspects, promoted the changes we wanted.
So it depends on what kind of law the citizen breaks. There is a different body for this,
Exactly.
violation. Yeah.
Yeah, let's start from the federal level. We have the Constitution, right? And it was amended in 1988 that the Article 225 would state that everybody has the right to a good environment, but everybody has also the duty to protect their environment. So there's a dual thing. So you have a right to be in nature, you have a right to fresh air, you have a right to fresh water, but you also have a duty to keep it up. So this is coming from the top, general, broad, and then from that on, the states are more specific. So IBAMA is a federal level. The states can be FEPAM, for example, in Rio Grande do Sul. It's a state organ that go see big areas, but at the city level, what happens within the city, then you might want to associate with a nonprofit organization. Like in Passo Fundo, we have 3 or 4 NGOs. We can leave one here, but it's not just to enforce law. Like I say, we don't have the people. We don't have, IBAMA doesn't have millions of enforcers to go.
Manpower, yeah.
Yeah, people have to call them. And that's bad, If my neighbor doesn't like me, he's gonna call IBAMA and say that I'm cutting this area. It's just a way to put the new system in place. Yeah. So we have different organs, but departments, let's say, different departments, but they work all together at some level.
Okay, so we know what to do. There are laws in place, recycling. Brazilians are aware that they need to recycle. Okay, and how about kids? How are they educated? How how this awareness is being brought to the kids? Is it at a school level? Um, how is it done?
Thanks for asking that. We as parents are the best teachers of our kids. Whatever we imprint or however we show the kids with our interactions, they will remember that. So you listen to me now can start at home. I have little kids. When I go to Brazil, people give little games that say they have little glass and cans and plastic and say, okay, put in the right color, separate recycling, or we do that at home. Can be a fun game. Can be like take your kid and go for a walk in the weekend, go, hike on a trail. So those little things are very important. So parents do that all the time informally. But in school, teachers, since my time in Brazil, like 15 years ago, 20 years ago, teaching, we would get together and make projects from kindergarten all the way to high school with different levels of projects. If we have the little kids, let's plant those little bean seeds and let's develop that passion. Let's watch this movie. And there's a very cute movie, Wall-E. Wally is a little robot that lives on Earth. So I'm recommending a movie if you want to watch. It's very cute for kids. Don't have a. Sometimes, if we talk about the environment, people think, oh, they're pushing down something negative and they are annoying and they want to, they are radicals. But not necessarily. We can do enjoyable things. And then as they grow older, like eighth graders, we would go walk with math teacher through projects, math, geography, science, in Portuguese in that case. And we would write little projects. We would knock on doors and say, hey, how is your water bill this month? Let's do calculation how you can save water, for example. Oh, let's plant these trees. Then the math teacher says, okay, what kind of geometric shape you want? Do you want a cylinder? Do you want a square? And we work together on that. So projects are great. And then by high school, the kids take from it. They take walks down the street and they collect garbage on their own. So their clubs do different activities in order to preserve the environment.
So it's not only basically on like the science teacher is gonna be teaching the kids about environmental education. So it's a more broad, different subjects,
Yeah.
teachers get involved with the
Yeah,
same
it's
idea.
per project we call like one semester we're gonna work with water. Next semester we're gonna work with air pollution. Next semester we're gonna work with trees and or flora, and then we're gonna work with fauna. So we break into projects. Everybody works in their area a little bit on that. That's very unique too from Brazil.
You had just mentioned about water, saving water, and about air pollution. Can you tell us a little bit about projects in Brazil? How is it done? How awareness is being brought? Who checks the levels of air pollution? How is it done in
Oh,
Brazil?
yes. Okay, good. So there's universities that partner with companies and do some projects. My husband's American and he went to Brazil last year to do a postdoc. He collects samples on the main avenue that we have there to evaluate the air pollution. That they try. There's professors that work with proposing new ways, new routes of walkability. So one of our partners is Professor Asindo Neckel. If he hears this live, is great. So he's tried to propose to the government, to the city developers, ways of improve the flow of cars or alternative ways to drive. So there is a push on that, and the government listens to those proposals and try to adjust. I think legislation-wise, it's written there somewhere, but we don't enforce. It's the same, unfortunately, with water. The water really is not as it should be because Like when we had the Olympics, everybody would clean the rivers, pull the garbage out, try to treat this water, put some microorganism there that will help decay, trash or pollution. But we should improve. There's room for improvement on those two topics. And
It came to my mind, there are also some projects in Brazil related to bicycles for people to start cycling much more,
yes,
even to work, to and from work.
you can rent your bike at some areas of Brazil. You get your credit card, you tap, you get your bike, and you go where you need to be and you return there. So yeah, that's awesome. Some cities have those green bikes, and that decreases air
Also,
pollution. Mm-hmm.
it also contributes to saving the environment, right?
Yeah.
So you mentioned also about our 1998 Constitution. What does it say? What does it reveal?
For us was a breakthrough on the environment. The main message is like everybody has the right to a good balanced environment, but there is the duty to protect it. And then it breaks down into the categories we talked about, like air pollution, we talk about natural resources, talk about all kinds of ways. I would suggest people to do a Google search on that. Due to our time, we probably have 5 more minutes here. Then it just but yeah, it's beautiful. It's there. It was a pioneer. I cannot find amendments in the US Constitution that are as beautiful regards the environment as our amendment.
So this is very good to hear. So you mentioned about somebody's in Brazil that can regulate, enforce, and then can you just repeat to us? You mentioned that it was at government level, federal level. It is IBAMA, is it?
Yes.
In state level.
For Rio Grande do Sul is FIPA. I'm more familiar, but it's like their Secretariat of State Secretariat of Environmental Issues. It depends from state to state because there's a little bit of freedom. And then every city, major cities have groups that they associate with. A nonprofit organization generally. It got a bad reputation too for a while there because during the process of change, there are some hurdles that we have to go through. But they are wonderful. They work with kids. They go out in nature. They make paper. They collect that paper and they make a new one, and the kids participate on that. So there's a lot of good things as well. In Passo Fundo, to give an example, we used to have a GESP and GEVI, and now the one we're gonna send to you here is Instituto Semear. It's a very new one that they can help you. It's just passionate people that want to help protect the environment, but also help people to love nature as well.
All right. So now I'd like to invite the listeners, the people who are watching, to ask questions. And then we are going. I have one question here already that I'd like to ask you.
Yes.
Yes. So how is you had mentioned about the landfills and the sanitary landfills as well, right? So the depósito de lixo a céu aberto e aterros sanitários, right? So this is a very delicate topic, right? Because the landfills can cause a lot of damage and harm to environment. And you mentioned that there was a period of time that the cities, municipalities had to adjust, and they had a period of time that at kind of a deadline. How is it solved, or how this issue has been solved throughout the years?
Good question. First of all, thank you very much. We are wrapping up this, but I'm available to chat with you on the interviews as soon as this meeting is over. But how did we end up fixing that problem? First thing we have to do, unfortunately, there's two things at the same time. One is increase awareness. So is having meetings and have seminars, is talking, knocking door to door. We had agents in Brazil that would talk about the importance, so everybody was aware of it. And there is a lot of pollution that came out of those landfills, and is a hazard for society. But also the law has to be changed. Unfortunately, the federal level had to put down on the states, we need to end these landfills, these open landfills, because problem for people can get cut there because we don't know what's in their garbage, and they can get severely sick, the catadores. So it's it's not good for them, but it's also not good for people living around it. There's like a radius that alleviates the whole pollution miles and miles and miles across. So it's not good for the rivers that are nearby, for the trees that are nearby, or for production that's nearby. So that government, federal level, had to tell the states that have to tell their little cities to address the problem. There was a little bit of money as an incentive, but they probably have to tap on taxes. Here in the United States, we don't have open landfills, and we need to do like increased taxes to take care of it. So and in Brazil, they tried to eradicate, I think, to 2016, but then they had to extend to 2021. And it's still nowadays people that still have it, because we can't fix all the problems, in a short period of time. But great question. Yes.
Then there is someone that also asked about the plastic, how the problem of plastic is solved, not only in Brazil, but throughout the world.
The plastic is a big issue, and China, our products here, our recycling in plastic would go to China, where they would make into new things. They would take water bottles, which I don't use often, but somebody just gave me one here, and they make into brooms, and which are functional. They keep reincorporating in a new product. So that's very, very nice. But for us right now, important is to separate. So when people have to make a new product, they have it. Definitely not in the environment. And then we can go to an array of problems, like even in agriculture, we use microplastics to bind the chemical in the seed, which is another problem. So yeah, plastic is something that we as a society have to figure out solutions for that. There's people working on it, but long term.
Thank you very much. Eli, there is someone who wrote here about the problem of trees. This person said, oh, some trees need more water than other trees, like palm trees. So he asked the question, is it okay to cut these trees, these palm trees, and plant trees that demand less water from the soil? What would it be recommended?
Very important question. Yes, there are trees that drain your water resources. For example, eucalyptus drains your water resources. So in areas that are very wet and you need drainage, you plant eucalyptus. But in areas you're trying to preserve the little water you have, you should cut and replace with species that don't require too much water. And probably you have guidelines on your own government, because trees change from area to area, from city to city. Jenny, can I leave my message here? I'm looking at my Zoom meeting time, and it's probably
yes, please. So what is your final message to us? And yes, please go ahead.
Guys, I want to tell you that one thing, sometimes I get overwhelmed. You know, I get too nervous. It's too much. I can't do it. Things look bad. And then somebody told me once, do what you can from where you are with what you have. So my final message to you, you can start right now. You change yourself, you change the world. So bloom where you are. That's my final message to you. And I'm happy to keep this discussion another time or in the comments here. Thank you, Dani, so much for the invitation, and was a real pleasure.
I would love to have your email address. Would you like to tell us what your email address is? And I'd like you to share also about this project, Semear in Brazil as well. So if someone wants to get involved and get to know more about environmental education in Brazil, or specifically in some areas of Brazil, I think it would be very nice if you could share that with us.
Oh yeah, that's a pleasure. And I will also, if you need recommendations to people, different projects, we have contacts in the Amazon rainforest in Brazil. We develop projects there. In the Rio Grande do Sul, we work with a university, now it's called the Titus, that does different projects. So if you want to go there, we have recommendations as well. So my email is last name, as it shows in the screen there, Boda. First name Eliane, bodaeliane@gmail.com. Okay, and yes, I will post Instituto Semear here as well. And another time we can talk about English as a second language, Portuguese as a foreign language. There's a lot of things we can learn about language. And I really appreciate Dani, how she's enthusiastic and she believes in people, and she pushed a foreign language on me. my native Portuguese mind was like, no, I can't do it. And she said, you can. And so thank you for that too.
It's so beautiful how Eli could share, you know, things in English and she can share in Portuguese as well. So the same way as someone can learn a language. Some other time, I'd love to invite Eli and her husband to share more about environmental education, ESL, EFL with us. And I just want to finalize now. And I just want to thank you very much for your time. I also want to thank the audience for watching us. And our next live will be next Friday, the 31st of March. This is one more live promoted by IGR Pretoria. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye. See you
Bye.
next time.
Next time.